Hey, what do you know? Let's make cioppino. What's cioppino? It's bouillabaisse from Italy, possibly created by Italian fishermen in San Francisco. Sort of like a fish stew from any country during any period of history. It's very similar to bouillabaisse, except it's a little more tomato-y and a little less saffron-y. We're gonna make it with some mussels that have been scrubbed and debearded, which you've already seen me do. Here's a beard. See that? That has to be pulled out, like that. Good, so you wanna check these. We're gonna scrub them because grit in the bottom of your bouillabaisse or your cioppino is disgusting. And the grit comes from the surface of these. These are cockles, these are actually from New Zealand, which is a little weird, but they're little tiny clams. We have some shrimp and we have some cod. And we're basically gonna make a delicious base for these items. It's very easy. Don't be afraid of cioppino. It's easy. So the question is, how do I cook this and make it so it's not all different temperatures or the fish is overcooked? Well, number one, it's in a sauce, so you can hide a lot of mistakes. Number two, you put the ingredients in at different times so that you put the shrimp in when there's the amount of time that it takes to cook shrimp. You put the fish in when, you know what I mean? So you kind of time your additions based on the ingredients. These are the shrimps. This is a very nice piece of cod. Now I chose cod because it's robust. It's thick and it's firm. It'll hold up in a stew. So I'm just gonna cut sort of large pieces of this, okay? And of course, when I bought the fish, you kind of can't mess this up, okay? Like it's pretty hard to mess up. The first time I made bouillabaisse, I was so nervous. And then I realized it's liquid that you cook fish in. That's literally what cioppino is. All you're doing is making a really delicious liquid, and then you're gonna drop fish in it. That's it. Okay, here we go. There's our chopped fish. I'm just gonna cut a shallot. I'm using, because it's winter time, there's no tomatoes. So there are, but you shouldn't buy them. I'm using canned, pureed tomatoes. And we're just gonna make a beautiful liquid. That's literally what you should be thinking when you're making this. I'm gonna cut these in sort of rustic slices, kind of like this. Like that, okay? Because I want it to be present. I want it to be present in the dish. Fish stock. You can use vegetable stock. I wouldn't use chicken stock. You can use vermouth. We're gonna use a tiny bit of pastis, which is Pernod. We're gonna try that because I think it's kind of interesting because it's the flavor of anise. Interesting, okay? So I'm gonna start the base. Let's take it to the stage. I'm gonna use this beautiful pot that Lynn gave me. Look at this. Hot pan, olive oil. There you go. Okay, this is obviously a beautiful pan, so it's already hot. Putting a little bit of olive oil in the bottom. And I'm gonna brown our onions, shallots. Calls for garlic. I don't buy garlic because I can't digest it. So this should have a crushed garlic clove in it. Sorry, I don't have it. Okay, I'm just gonna cook these down. I'm actually gonna turn this up and get it a little more violent. I have this kind. It's not my favorite kind. La Valle is my favorite. This is a superb version, however. Pernod. So it's essentially like adding fennel flavor. It's kind of like fennel essence in a weird way. So it's a great thing to have on hand when you're deglazing a fish pan. to make the sauce with a little squirt of lemon. Nice. So I'm cooking down the Pernod so that it's almost gone. See that? So we're making this nasty, really nasty. A little salt. I'm now going to pour a little wine in here. Now, literally, I'm making this up. Because I've done it before, but it's like I'm making this up, essentially. I'm going to boil this wine down a little bit. And when this cooks down, I'm going to add a little knob of butter for luxury. Or you could monter à beurre at the end, which means make it silky and glossy right at the end. Yeah, it's really refined, the Pernod. Makes me interested in using it in other iterations. Kind of sickeningly amazing. Oh. Really interested in that Pernod. Now I'm going to add a can of tomatoes and kind of a lot of stock. It can't be like tomato sauce because then you won't be able to cook it. You know what I mean? It'll just sit in the, you know what I mean? It has to be almost like, kind of like a soup. Okay? Well, it's not kind of like a soup. You're making a soup, a stew. Okay, now I'm going to add stock. I'm looking at this and I'm looking at my fish and I'm seeing how much to add. Okay. Pretty good. Going to add a little bit more. Now this you could simmer, you could cook it down and let it meld for a while. 20 minutes, 15 minutes. But, I mean, is this impressive to your friends? Yeah, I guess so. They don't need to know how easy it is. Well, I like the look of that. I'm going to taste this for flavor. Oh, it's good. It's really good. I want this to come back to a boil, so I'm turning it up a little bit. Oh, it's good. The vegetable stock doesn't really matter. Would it be better with fish stock? Yeah, but we don't have that, so we're not using it. All right, now we want this to simmer and get nasty, right? I'm gonna put a little pepper. You could put some crushed red pepper flakes in here if you wanted. Okay, I'm just gonna simmer this for a very short time. Right now they're strangers in the pot. They're like, "What? Who are you? Stock? What's that? Well, what are you, some kind of pureed crushed tomato thing? Yeah, well, you seem like a nice person. Maybe we could hang out." That's what's happening right now. If it's summertime, at the end, you would throw in a handful of fresh tomato. Whoa. I'm gonna stir it. And we're gonna add the fish. Just think of it this way, longest cooking to quickest cooking, okay? So the cod should go in first, or whatever fish you're using. I wouldn't use something like halibut, which is so expensive. I would use something like cod. Oh yeah, don't stir it once you put the fish in, because you can break the pieces. Okay, here go the scrimps. And I'm gonna let that sort of simmer for 1 second. I'm not stirring, I'm just pushing these down. And then I'm gonna put in the cockles and mussels. Before you serve, you must remove the mussels or cockles that did not open, because those are dead. You don't wanna boil this, you're not doing boiled fish. Even though, like I said, it's kinda hard to mess this up. Because even if you overcook your fish, it's in sauce. I mean, how dry can it be, right? She's really snoring. They're having a crappy day because it's kind of raining. Okay, I'm gonna add the shellfish. Beautiful. Just putting those down a little bit. And we're gonna cook this for about 6 to 8 minutes. 8 minutes is a lot. 10 minutes is really a lot, depending on how you cut your fish. Just think about those guys throwing the fish in. First of all, they know when it's ready because they've cooked fish a million times. But if you're scared of cooking fish, I would say this was a pretty amazing way to cook fish, especially if you're nervous. And then at the very end, I'm going to stir in a little more Pernod because I think that's a really nice idea. And I love the flavor. The bubbles you're seeing are the shellfish opening, the big bubbles. This has been on for about 6 minutes, 7 minutes. I'm looking at all the shellfish has opened beautifully. Yeah, everything is great. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is turn off the heat, and I'm going to stir in a glug more of Pernod. It's hot enough that the alcohol will burn off, so I'm just going to do that. Okay? And I'm going to leave it to sort of meld. Look at how beautiful that is, guys. Come on. And then you're going to use a ladle, and you'll pick up a ladle full of all the goodness and put it in somebody's dish, bowl, with a little piece of bread and a glass of wine, and Bob's your uncle. That is a meal fit for a king. Look at that. It's a beautiful stew, beautiful sort of soupy stew. It's beautiful. Cioppino, what do you know? Well, what are you, some kind of pureed crushed tomato thing? Yeah, well, you seem like a nice person. Maybe we could hang out.